anybody be around? Okay.
We can change it. Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call meeting of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission of the Town of Stratford to order. First order of business is approval of the minutes of September 19th, public hearing and regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Any changes, additions, deletions, corrections?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of
We have a motion to
September 19th.
approve. Second, Mr. Schlager. All in favor? Approved. Old business. IWWA application 2018-2, construction of a 7-unit complex associated infrastructure with upland review area of wetlands, site address 170 Orinoco Lane, reference map 50.2, block 3, lots 8 and 9, applicant Bluebird Prestige. Need a motion to take it off the table.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to take the application 2018-2 off the table. First for discussion.
We have a motion. We have a second? Second, Mr. McCann. All in favor?
Good. Aye.
All right. So we have before us this application, and according to the motion, the first order is discussion.
Based on a review of all materials entered into the record at the September... Based on a review of all materials entered into the record at the September 19th, 2018 public hearing, and as per section 10.2 of the Town of Stratford Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Regulations, Standards, and Criteria for Decisions, the application as proposed may not meet the conditions for permit issuance. The Commissioners need to decide based on the evidence whether the applicant has satisfactorily addressed all of the following standards and criteria of section 10.2. Failure to satisfactorily address any one of the standards or criteria is grounds for permit denial. And I call the Commission's attention to section 10.2(1)(b). The applicant's purpose for and any feasible and prudent alternatives to the proposed regulated activity, which alternatives could cause less or no environmental impact to the wetlands or watercourses, including a consideration of alternatives which might enhance environmental quality or have a less detrimental effect, and which could feasibly attain the basic objectives of the activity proposed in the application. This consideration should include, but is not limited to, the alternative of requiring actions of a different nature that would provide similar benefits with different environmental impacts, such as using a different location for the activity. The finding, a feasible and prudent alternative which would cause less environmental impact to the wetlands watercourse is currently approved, IWWA permit number 2013-3, and was presented by the applicant during the public hearing. The application currently before us, 2018-2, proposes a 7-unit subdivision of single-family homes, all within the 250-foot upland review area of wetlands/watercourse. The previously approved application, however, the 2013-3, allows for the building of 11 single-family homes, 7 of which are entirely outside of the upland review area. Thus, with the exception of the road to enter the rear portion of 170 Orinoco Lane, it is feasible that the applicant could locate the entire 7-unit development that is currently proposed, as per the current application 2018-2, outside of the upland review area. As this option would involve lesser disturbance to the upland review area, the Commission is within its jurisdiction to deny the current application. And also, please note that Section 10.3 of the Town of Stratford Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Regulations states that a permit shall not be issued unless the agency finds on the basis of the record that a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. So now it's on the Commission to decide whether they would proceed with either approving or denying the application based on the findings. And of course, it's still up to further discussion if anybody has anything to add.
Yeah, I'd like to add also, I had a whole, but Tina did a good job. Number one, in July and August, I asked the developer if they were aware of the water problem. Roanoke Lane, corner of North and South Trail. They dodged the question. Last month, I was unable to attend, but I see that the developer did give an outline and again did not address the issue of the Roanoke problem and the golf course, by the way. I really was going to ask why, but let's continue. Since then, I have found out some information that the commission should know. That area is a floodplain area, and Roanoke they haven't completed the assessment yet, have asked a qualified person to do all the research and give a plan to correct the situation. I have seen pictures of cars where the water was up above the tire level. So this is a problem. Now, being that it's a floodplain, FEMA has to approve any kind of a development on fixing this problem, which means that this project here, going forward, could evidently affect whatever is going to be done outside of what FEMA would say if it's done first. So I really think, let me look at my notes because I really think that the floodplain zone, the problem there would have a real effect. I believe I mentioned that in relation to the problem as far as what this application is going to do. So being that's the case, and FEMA is going to get involved, and being that it's within our jurisdiction of where the building is, I really feel that it should not be approved.
Maybe?
Yeah, thank you for that. I just have a question, one question, and then I'm going to have other questions of Tina. During the public hearing, one of the people in the audience that was opposed to the application questioned the 50 and 100-year stormwater runoff figures. Did you look at those? I did not. No.
I did not look at them because I felt that it was unnecessary based on the evidence that was already before us, based on the feasible and prudent alternatives, and the the permit that already exists for the property has already gone through all of the review for stormwater management. So the feasible and prudent alternative is before us, and it's already been hashed out essentially.
Mr. McCann?
I've always found the feasible and prudent alternative clause very troubling on all things, because I often can think of many feasible and prudent alternatives to applications. But in this case, they actually have presented one to us, which is a little less troubling because it's before us. And as I pointed out in the last meeting, the word in our regulations is not may, it's shall. We have a very strict obligation under those words that our hands are tied.
Yeah, I kind of go along with Bill's feelings. After reading the regs, and I did ask the applicant at the end of the public hearing about reasonable and prudent alternatives. Christina brings up a very good point with there is enough room in this parcel to be out of the review area. And here again, the regs are pretty much defined that we have to be satisfied with the applicant's response on a feasible alternative. So I think it weighs a lot in the decision of how we would vote on this application tonight. I have a question for Tina and maybe for council. If we were to deny this application without prejudice, that would allow the applicant to come back in less than a year with a revision, I would assume, if he would like to, on this application. Is that correct?
I do believe that's true, but he would still have to overcome the same issue of having lesser impact to the upland review area than the currently approved application.
Well, that's part of my point. If we give him the opportunity to come back, and he comes in with a revised plan, do we have to go through the whole process again?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be.
So it really wouldn't.
Zero one.
It really wouldn't serve any purpose then to deny without prejudice.
Mr. McCann?
I don't think so, in my opinion. They have the opportunity of coming in tomorrow with another application.
Right.
Whether we do it without prejudice or just a flat denial.
Yeah.
In most likelihood, we're going to see something in the future. It would be my guess. But I think in the case of what is before us now, and with the evidence we have, I don't even think there is the opportunity of saying without a denial, or without prejudice, because we do have prejudice, because
Because there exists it.
Yeah, no, it was just a question, Thank you.
Mr. Slager?
Well, if that happens, I am still worried that what's going to happen down in the floodplain area, and that should be adjudicated as far as what a future plan should be, as far as if Orono Village comes up with a plan and FEMA gets involved, I think that should be adjudicated on what another plan would be as far as these buildings go. Because if a plan is completed for Orono and then something comes in after, you don't know what's going to happen. I think they both should be in tandem with each other, and FEMA probably would be the one to figure all of that out.
Well, that's absolutely correct. That should be figured out. But that would be part and parcel of a subsequent application.
That's what I said. If it's another application.
We have to kind of, I want to go back a step. We have to kind of clean the slate. I mean, we can't start pulling in hydrology and all the rest of this stuff into the denial when the denial isn't really based on that. If that will come up again, and I hope you bring it up, and I hope the people from Orono bring it up to the applicant's engineers and all the rest of that stuff. So if you're not satisfied with the information that you received, hopefully after the next application review, you will be satisfied. And if you're not, keep them coming back, keep sending questions their way until they give you the answer that you want to see.
Well, I could be home watching the ball game instead of going through with this again.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Seeing you're staring at me, Mr. Chairman,
Stare at anybody.
I kind of get the feeling I'm on the line here. I guess I have to, what do we do when we put it in the form of a motion?
Right, yeah.
Make a motion that we deny this application as presented.
All right, we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
With the
Mr. Slade.
fact the findings that were presented by the Conservation Administrator.
And
A denial, we have to, when we deny it, we have to say why we're denying
Right.
it. And I'm just, rather than reiterate what was just presented by the Conservation Administrator, I would request that that be part of the motion.
so the
Secretary.
denial is based on the finding that there's a prudent.
And feasible alternative, which has been previously presented.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Slade. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? This application is denied. Moving on to new business. New business is the meeting dates for 2019. You all have them? Mr. McCann, you said something about Thanksgiving?
Well, I just recognize that, November 20th is the Wednesday before the Thursday Thanksgiving.
I'll take you all to.
And the chances of
Okay,
having
we're in.
a quorum are less than best.
So, we can make a motion to accept the dates as it is, and then as we get closer to November 20th of 2019, we can appropriately change the date 2 weeks ahead of the meeting, or whatever the statutory obligation is, unless you want to change it right now.
Well, the thing is, we have the opportunity of, if we put it on record, of changing it
Well,
to
let's just
to
take
the
a look.
following week of
Stand by.
Yeah, that's the only thing, because I won't
Oh.
know what other meetings are happening, just because ours are always the third Wednesday.
never mind.
Yeah, my recommendation would be to accept the meetings as proposed, and as we get closer to the date, if we feel we won't have quorum, we can seek an alternate date or cancel if need be.
Satisfactory? All right, so we have this. I suppose we ought to vote to accept it. Yeah, so, right. No, I don't, you make a motion. Motion by Mr. Hoyt. Do we have a second? We have a second? We have a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. So you got your meeting dates. Staff reports?
Nothing.
Nothing. Administrative permits? Nothing. Commissioners forum? Nothing.
Commissioners Forum. I also, as you may or may not know, am a member of the Conservation Commission. I am the representative of the Conservation Commission to the Wetlands Commission. The Conservation Administrator is the clerk to the Conservation Commission. And at our last meeting, there was some discussion about the workload of the Conservation Administrator. I have personal knowledge of what the workload of a Conservation Administrator is from history. And I watched Tina trying to struggle with some of the things that she's been charged with and some of the responsibilities that she's been given. And what we did at the Conservation Commission was unanimously vote to send a letter to the town council during this budget period requesting that our clerk, the Conservation Administrator, receive an additional person, be it part-time, but some sort of help. I suggested to the commission that I will bring this up at the Wetlands Commission, which I am now doing, and I would like to ask this commission, if you see fit, to send a letter from us to the town council asking that consideration be made for an assistant to the conservation administrator / wetlands agent for the town of Stratford.
/ tree warden.
/ tree warden and a lot of other
right, no,
things.
really.
What you would do is to make a favorable recommendation to the town council.
Is that the way it would be phrased? So I make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to the council for additional.
I'll second.
A second? A motion, a second? All in favor? Any discussion first? No? All in favor? Done.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Tina.
I have,
Tree warden.
Tina, I have one question.
Yes.
Not that I want another card in my wallet, but whatever happened to the suggestion that the commission have cards as far as when we go out and look at properties?
That just fell by the wayside. Sorry, it just fell by the wayside. I haven't thought about that in months, but if it's something that everybody wants, I could certainly look into that again.
Ask Jay, he just happened to,
He did?
for the zoning.
It shouldn't be hard. You just have to take your picture and stick it on an
Yeah.
I think mine was done by somebody over at the fire department, so I think they make a little,
I mean, it's
ID.
pretty easy now.
yeah.
Just in addition to that, this commission, by our regulations and by the waiver, when somebody puts in an application, gives you automatic entry onto that property from the applicant. And it's,
I believe it's during reasonable business hours. It's got to be like,
but, yeah, but again, the reason the cards and the identification is important so the applicant knows that you in fact are a commissioner. And I think they would be good if we could.
Well,
get those.
and the other thing, we can communicate when an applicant's here, is take a look at these people. They may show up.
Well, if the babysitter's there or the nanny's there,
Right.
at least we have something that we can show them when we get
No,
to the door.
I agree. Anything else? Need a motion to adjourn.
You're looking at me again, a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McCann made a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.